Hey, what's going on? I am Matt O'Leary, going to be hanging out with you. Oh, this is fun. Sunday night. You know what that's turned into now is Matt O'Leary doing some streams with you guys. From 7 to 8, I'll be hanging out with you. We'll do some questions. We're going to do a ton of fun stuff tonight. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, man, we're just going to get after it. We're going to hop right into today's show. It's going to be, well, first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about a trade scenario that I saw online and then get into your questions. This is very, comment based, super chat based. So if you want your question here, I should probably pop that up. Let's pop this up. So if you want your questions answered or hopped up to the top, make sure to send in the super chat. We'll go through as much as we can in the next hour. And we're recording Just Jets right after this. So it's a busy Sunday night for me as always. And yeah, let's hop into it. DK Metcalf. So I'm going to share my screen here from Chad Forbes, NFL Draft Bites on Twitter. He says this: if you're the Jets, do you consider flipping the pick acquired from the Jamal Adams trade, 10th overall, to Seahawks for DK Metcalf? Might require the Seahawks to send a pick back to the Jets or be willing to take on $13 million guaranteed on Corey Davis's contract. Interesting, though. I don't know how much I like this idea, and I like DK Metcalf. Before anyone jumps down my throat in the comment section or in the chat, this is not an anti-DK Metcalf commentary. I like DK. He would bring something the Jets don't have in a deep threat. He's a big body. He's a freak. He's young. He's 24 years old. I get it. There's a lot to like about DK Metcalf. I don't know if I want to give up the 10th overall pick in order to get DK. If there's a world where I could say, hey, Seattle, you screwed up with your draft property, right? You draft assets. So we'll give you pick 35. Not your pick 10 back. That's too kind. But you're going to send over DK Metcalf. No, I don't think so. I don't think I would do it. And giving up on Corey Davis, I understand the contract isn't great, but $13 million, who cares about the $13 million? The Jets have cap space it's going out of style. I don't want to give up Corey Davis. I want him to be a part of this receiving core too. And yeah, DK is better than Corey. That's not the point. The point is you should be continuing to add to your receiver room. So if there's a world where I can hold on to pick 10 and potentially use it on Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, whichever wide receiver you like, you keep Corey Davis, you re-sign Braxton Berrios, you have Elijah Moore, then to me, that's hey, okay, you're starting to have a little bit of a receiver room. Let's just use, for example, now don't jump, again, comments, I'm talking to you, don't jump down my throat. This is just an example here. Let's say pick 10 is Treylon Burks. And let's say you re-sign Braxton Berrios, which I think is more likely than people are giving credit. I think people are worried about him getting a crazy amount of money. I don't. I think the Jets end up getting it done. So let's say that's the scenario. So you go into your receiver room in 2022 with, and I could ditch this. Why don't I just go back to me? You go into 2022 with your receiver room of Traylon Burks, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios. That's a lot better. And then maybe you add a veteran in free agency, or you say, hey, Denzel, we're going to give you a training camp to figure it out. If you look like you did in 2021, well, we're probably letting you go. But if you look like the 2020 version of yourself, okay, maybe you stick around for a little bit. That's much more intriguing than having DK Metcalf and Elijah Moore and then a hole. Because I feel like you're just opening up a hole at that point, because you're giving away you're trading for a wide receiver, but then you would be giving up a wide receiver. So you would still have a need at the wide receiver position. So like, yeah, you're improving, but you still have that need. And I guess you could say, well, then you can use a pick on the second round. Like maybe a Dotson's there for you at 35. Well, okay, but I kind of would have liked to just draft my receiver at 10 and then pivot to either, I don't know, take your pick: corner, safety, linebacker, offensive line, edge, tight end, wherever the Jets are going to go after the first round. They still have a lot more work to be done. So I don't know how much I like this idea of giving up pick. And I don't think it's likely. Like, come on. See, is Seattle going to really say, hey, we messed up, we need our 10th pick back? You can take our young wide receiver on offense in DK Metcalf, and we'll take the Corey Davis. Like, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. Do you? Like, and again, I get the appeal of DK. I don't think he's a bad receiver. Like, again, I don't want this to turn into Matt thinks DK Metcalf's about a bad wide receiver. He's not. He's a good wide receiver. But maybe I'm a draft capital hoarder, but I don't really think that's the case. I don't want to give up pick 10 in that spot. I would rather trade, I don't know, a round 2 pick, a conditional round 3 pick, and a pick next year for an Amari Cooper, a Calvin Ridley, or someone like that. If those are my only two options presented to me, it's like, hey, you could either trade pick 10 and Corey Davis for DK Metcalf, or you can trade pick 35 for Calvin Ridley, or you could trade pick 35 for Amari Cooper. I'm going with one of the other two options. I don't know. That's just me. So I didn't like that trade scenario. And you know how I know it was probably, I guess in a way, an interesting thought. Like, and I don't want to completely, poo-poo that argument and say that it was a bad trade, because I posted that on my TikTok at Matt O'Leary NY, if you're not following over there. And I had so many people saying there's no way the Jets do it. And then I had so many people saying there's no way Seattle does it. So if people are saying on either side that there's no way that one of the teams is going to do it, it's probably not off by that much trade value wise, I guess, but don't know. I don't think I would be a fan of it. I would like the Jets to go a different direction here. So let's hop right into the comment section. Let's do it. We're going to start here. Film Study pops in with Jeremy Cement, says trade for Bradbury. Now that's an interesting conversation, because James Bradbury is owed a lot of money by the New York Giants, and the Giants are currently $12 million over the cap for 2022. They could trade Bradbury or cut Bradbury theoretically, but I don't think they want to just flat out cut him and free up a significant chunk of change. I think it's like $12 or $13 million. So you're essentially there, right? So he seems as good as gone. If you can toss, you have 4 picks in round 4 and 5. If you could figure out a pick either in the 4th round or the 5th round to trade for James Bradbury, I think you do it. And I know people are going to say, well, Bradbury's, his value is better than a 4th or 5th. Well, you have to take into consideration the context that the league knows the Giants are trying to free themselves of cap space. So, like, yeah, he's a pretty good corner. Is he an elite level corner? No, and he's coming off a down year in 2021, but I think he's still a solid or a steady corner in this league. But it's not going to cost you as much as you might think because of the cap implications to the Giants. You're almost doing the Giants a favor by giving them anything in return on a guy they probably would have had to cut. So the Giants probably take one of your day 3 picks and says, thank you very much. We'll give you a corner who can start. We'll get a draft pick and try to help our rebuild. So I agree with this. I would definitely consider that for sure. Scott, you can't cover Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. I that would be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun. I like Treylon Burks is my wide receiver 1. Garrett Wilson's my wide receiver 2, but it's close. I would be very, very happy with either of those two. Sean24 says, what do you think about DJ Bieniemy saying higher ups want to use premium assets on cornerback? I did hear that. And I'm not saying that he got wrong information. Clearly he did. He wouldn't just make that up, but I would be surprised if it came to fruition. Myself personally, I would be surprised if it happened. Now, signing a veteran in free agency at the cornerback position, I think makes sense. I'm still, even for I like Sauce Gardner better than I like Stingley, which is a hot take to some, but I like Sauce Gardner. And if he was the pick at 10, I wouldn't hate it, but I would be surprised by it, I think. And it's, again, we're so far out from the NFL draft. It's really dependent on what happens in free agency, but I think I'd be pretty surprised if they ended up going cornerback in the first round. Elliot, if the Jets sign a starting guard in free agency, would you still take Ickham in the draft, assuming KT is not available? No, I don't think you do that at that point then. I think you pivot and you go a different direction at that. Maybe you move back if that's the case. If they sign a starting caliber guard, because then if you take Ickham Ekwonu, then that means you're giving up on Mekhi Becton or George Fant, which I don't think they're ready to do yet. And in tomorrow's video or the podcast that's coming out tomorrow, the opening segment before we get into voicemails is going to be just this, Ekwonu and the reasoning behind drafting a player like him or Evan Neal. I wouldn't take. My answer is no. I wouldn't take him, and then I would probably look to move back at that point, or look at I don't know. I would not take Kyle Hamilton. I know that there are Jet fans who would like to do that. I wouldn't. So I would probably either move back or take either Jermaine Johnson or George Karlaftis at that point. And I'm more of a Karlaftis guy, but I would not be upset at Jermaine Johnson either. Hit that like button. Yes, please. Thanks for shouting us out here, Mike. Stephen T, I want to pull this up, and not for the praise of my donation, but just if you don't know, Tyson, who does Let's Talk Jets Radio, is doing an awesome challenge. I think this upcoming week, I guess now at this point, he's doing a running challenge, and basically he's raising awareness for mental health, which is I'm also a big advocate for. I think it's important to talk about, and I agree. I think we do have to end the stigma around mental health. So if you haven't already, please check out his fundraiser that he's doing. It's definitely worth your while, and it's for a good cause. And they're great guys over at Let's Talk Jets Radio. So happy to help them out. Stephen Ingle, why would you focus more on defense when we have to build around the quarterback? It's an offensive-driven league. F the defense, fix the offense first. Fair point. And yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you there. I'm not completely at the F the defense part, but I don't think you could be satisfied where it's like, yeah, you went to 21st overall on offense this past year, which is great. 32 to 21 is a big leap, but I want them to take another leap up, like another 10 spots, maybe get in the top half of the league in offense and make sure. That's the thing to me, right? You have to make damn well sure that Zach Wilson's your guy. And you can't have the built-in excuses that you had with Sam earlier in his career, where it was the offensive line stunk, or he didn't have any weapons, or this or that. Like, take those out of the equation. Give your young quarterback everything that they need to succeed. And if they don't, that's your answer. And then number two, you have somewhat of an infrastructure for your next quarterback to come into if it doesn't work out. I don't think it's not going to work out. I'm confident in Zach Wilson, but let's see. Let's play some offense. This is another good comment here. I can't wait to see Wilson and Burks at the combine this week. The NFL combine. I am ready for draft content. I need it in my blood. Oh, it's the best time of the year. And hopefully, like the regular season could be the best time of the year for Jets fans again real soon. Um, it's a blast. I really love the draft time. It's so much fun to do. Um, so yeah, I can't wait for this combine too. A lot of really good stuff gonna happen. Brandon's hanging out. What's up, Brandon? I know someone who works for the Jets, my source, and he said he would not be surprised to see a corner in round 1 or 2 since they think Hall needs a solid partner. Okay. Um, Now I would say round 2, I think it makes, and again, I'm not saying anything against Brandon's source or DJ's source. They very well could take a corner in the first round. I think I would just be surprised. Again, it just goes back to, I guess, my philosophy and my interpretation of the things that I've heard. That's all. And if they do, then I hope it works, and I hope it's Sauce Gardner because Derek Stingley has some injury history that I don't love. If it was 2019 and the last 2 years didn't matter, then okay, it's probably a different conversation. Raw Power, what's up, dude? Thanks for hanging out. I like McBride, but no way you move up to get him. Other good pros in the tight end draft agree. Yes, I do agree with that. I think your plan is stay put at 35. If Trey McBride makes it to 35, fantastic, great. You take him, move on. But I really like Jeremy Ruckert a lot. I think he will absolutely be there for you at 35 or 38. If you want to take him that early, you could take the risk and say maybe he'll be there in round 3, but I would not have an issue pulling the trigger on him in the top 40. I also like Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin a lot. The Coastal Carolina tight end. I don't love him as a blocker. He's a great receiver, though, and Isaiah Likely, maybe Charlie Kolar. But yes, there are absolutely other tight ends in this draft class that you can get. To me, McBride is obviously tight end 1, but I think my plan would be, okay, you stay there. And if for whatever reason McBride goes earlier than 35, then I'm taking Ruckert at 38, let's say, and then you go from there. Jordan asks, do the Jets address both safety positions in free agency? I'm gonna say no. I think they sign a veteran to start, and maybe they bring like LaMarcus Joyner back for depth purposes, but I don't necessarily think it's like, oh, he would bring him back and he's locked in as a starter after not playing a game at all last year. So I wouldn't count that, but there's a chance they end up signing him and another safety. I would my guess or my interpretation would be that the Jets would sign one in free agency, like one of the bigger guys, because there are potentially a ton of bigger free agent safeties hitting the market, and then take one in the sweet spot between round 2, 3, 4 in that range. Verone McKinley out of Oregon, I like. The same was it Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan. Lewis Seen from Georgia. That's probably a second round option. Petrie, who they saw at I was going to say the combine, but not the combine, at the Senior Bowl. Those would be my targets. So I think it's 1-1, to be honest with you. Jets trade up to number 2 for Hutchinson. What would it take? I feel like we've done this before. Crap, I have to hang on. Let me go back, and I'm going to pull up on my phone because my computer's running a little slow right now, so I don't want to use too much bandwidth on that. But I think it would be pick. Okay, so it's pick 2 is 2,600, and the New York Jets pick 4 is 1,800. Okay, yeah, I remember what it is. It would probably be like pick 4 and 10, and the Jets would get 2 and 34. That's about even at that point. So I don't know if they would do that. They would be okay moving back a couple of slots and getting maybe they would getting pick 4. They'd have pick 4, 10, and then 32 at that point. So maybe that would be what, 3 first rounders. Maybe they would do that. Interesting. Do. Yeah, I see your video is lagging, and it's because of the bandwidth issue. That's why I didn't pull it up on here. Here's another good one from Sean. Do you think teams were actually targeting Bryce Hall because of his lack of ball skills? No, that I don't buy. Um, and the reason behind it is because he was in the top of batted balls or forced incompletions. Those numbers were really high. PBU, forced incompletion percentage, all of those were pretty high. So I'm gonna lean towards no. And maybe some people in the building view him as like a third corner, like what DJ said. But I think where I'm permanently at is, or not permanently at, but where I'm currently at with him is definite cornerback two with potential as a cornerback one, but not quite at that point just yet. Uh, do, 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 do. Uh, I have somebody trying to get into my Google Drive right now. This is a mess. Is Garrett Wilson considered a deep threat? Mm, not necessarily. I think he's more considered like a good route runner. I guess he could be a deep threat, but I wouldn't necessarily classify him like I said, I wouldn't classify him as a deep threat per se. Is that in talking about Bryce Hall? Yes, he was our starting corner this year, but the rumor is that some people in the building don't view him as a starter. They view him more um as a cornerback three or someone rotating in. I don't. I view him as a corner two, but maybe there are some who feel differently. Not me. Okay, let's see what else we got. Yeah, no shit, PBU isn't the same as catching the ball, but that's to me is going to be something that changes or turns around. Oh God, what cornerback vet would you think is a good fit in free agency? Joe Hayden or Chris Harris, for example. I like Joe Hayden a lot because I think he can play zone well. And so actually so can Chris Harris. I've kind of just been talking, I've liked the Hayden connection, but really either of these two guys I think is a good fit. I would lean Hayden, but I'm good with either or. Jack Gaming chimes in. If Karlaftis has an insane combine, do you think he is in play for fourth overall? Um, See, Karlaftis is a really interesting one. Some people view him at pretty much everyone has him as a first rounder, but you have some people who think he's more of like pick 15 to 25, and then you have others who think he's a top 10 pick. I think he's worthy of a top 10 pick. I think the biggest thing that you need to see from George Karlaftis at the combine is flexibility or bend coming around with his speed on the edge. Um, if he can show that, then yeah, I think he can be in play. I like him a lot, probably more than most, but I already view him as a top 10 pick. So if he has an amazing combine, then sure, why not? Okay, this is a terrible allocation of resources. You can't do this. Don't draft two corners in the first round, please. This is a better allocation of resources. I want a corner with one of our second rounders. Okay, that's fair. Zane, this is a lot of people feel this way. This Zane says, I think I'd rather Jermaine Johnson over Karloftis. A lot a lot of people feel that way. It's not just you. I know that I'm probably in the minority, I guess, with Karloftis, depending on who you talk to. But I feel like it's a coin flip. So I wouldn't be upset if Jermaine Johnson was the pick. They're stylistically different. Johnson's more of that bendy edge rusher where Karloftis is that power guy. Larry says, is drafting left tackle at 4 enough to solidify the offensive line for this season? I would say yes, if we're talking about Ike Ekwonu or Evan Neal. And I'll go into a little bit on why, but again, this is kind of going to be tomorrow's podcast episode, so I don't want to give too much away. But this is not this is an insurance policy for this year while also a long-term starting offensive tackle play as well, because it's dependent on whether Mekhi Becton is healthy or not. If he's healthy, great. You're letting George Fant walk in free agency and you're running with Ekwonu or Neal, let's say, and Becton. If Becton is not healthy, then you build with going forward with Ekwonu and Fant. That's it. And then one moves inside, and then your offensive line's probably fine. Where are we in here? Okay. Here we go. What would your thoughts be if they drafted Ikem Ekwonu at 4 and Jermaine Johnson at 10? I would be curious to see what else the plan is at wide receiver. Like, did they add a wide receiver via trade? If they moved pick 35 for a wide receiver, then sure. If they signed a free agent wide receiver, then sure. If they were going to draft a wide receiver at 35 and cross their fingers, then I'd maybe be a little bit more apprehensive, but this is not a bad approach. It's kind of dependent on, I guess, what happens beforehand. And I know that's really not a great answer, but picking sauce and Stingley is total opposed to Salah's preaching trenches. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I personally don't think they're going to go corner in the first round, because I think they are going to prioritize the defensive line before they prioritize corner. And with edge still a hole, I would think we're much more likely to see an edge come off the board before a corner. That's just me. And I think Kev's in the same boat. Would taking a linebacker in the second round be too early? No, I don't think so. I think it's definitely a need. It depends on what you do in the first round. And with your other second round pick, obviously, it is also dependent on free agencies. And I know these are really vague answers and not exactly what you want to hear, but I don't think so. Christian Harris from Alabama. Chad Mumma in the top 40 is probably a little bit high. Maybe if you moved back and drafted him in the second round or picked him at 69 in the third round. But if we're talking second round linebacker, I would say Harris would probably be the one that makes the most sense. Sport Edit Central says, would the Jets try to acquire 2 tight ends? I think they are going to get 2 tight ends, but by acquire, do you mean in free agency or just in general? Because I really think they should add a veteran and a rookie. I would be a little bit worried, as much as I love this tight end class. It's one of my favorite positions in this upcoming draft class is tight end. I think there is really good value here. I think you need the mix of a veteran on top of a younger guy. So, I mean, I love Dalton Schultz. He's tight end 1 in free agency. If he hits it, you bring him in and pair him with, maybe you don't spend the second round pick on Trey McBride at that point, and then you take Jeremy Ruckert, let's say, instead, by waiting a little bit. That's a great 1-2 punch at tight end. But I don't think I would want to go into the draft having to take 2 tight ends. I think I'd want to get one in free agency and then also in the draft. Henry, I'll just answer this one quick. We've talked about it a little bit earlier, but I like Ahmad Gardner. Sauce Gardner is my favorite corner in this draft class. Jeb, my advice to you would be don't base an opinion on any prospect just off of one game. Hutchinson had one of the better edge rusher years from a prospect. Is he Myles Garrett or oh my God, who the heck did Washington take? Chase Young? No, he's not at that level, but he is. Don't overthink Aiden Hutchinson, please, by this quote unquote disappearing against Georgia. That'd be a mistake. Raw Power. Heard Ledger Doozable on Will Parkinson's pod. That's TOJ, by the way, if you don't listen. It's a great show. And he said he ran into Carl Lawson and he's confident he'll be ready to go. Good sign. Yeah, I think Carl Lawson should be okay. I love his potential. I was so pumped up when the Jets got him. I got his jersey. That's how excited I was before he even played a regular season game. I was just all in on him. I think he's an absolute freak, and you absolutely have to have someone else on the other side, though. I think you need more. Even with if Lawson comes back and is like he was before the injury, he was one of the leading pressures for edge rushers in the sport in 2020. So you add another edge on the other side with a mix of JFM, Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins, all that coming in, Bryce Huff rotating in. Then that's different. Anthony Coleman says it's crazy y'all saying no cornerback, but cornerback is our weakest positional. Sauce is the best player in the draft. Gave up, I think, 0 touchdowns in college. There you go. Against Alabama, he only allowed 14 yards. Crazy insane. He's a really, again, I wouldn't be mad if he's the pick. I just, again, it goes back to what positions I think the Jets are going to prioritize. I think they prioritize a pass rush more so than secondary. Lucas says crazy in retrospect that if the Jags score that touchdown from the 5-yard line against us, ew. I mean, yeah, I feel like you have to go. At that point, we were just numb to it, right? Like if they had a higher pick, awesome. But I don't know. After the 2020 season, I was out on the whole tank for in 2021. You have your quarterback prospect. You were gonna have 2 high end picks anyway. You have 2 picks in the top 10. You got to be able to figure it out at that point. Coach Harris tweeted me saying, "Stop looking over my question, bro. I am Jet Life." Okay, where is Jet Life? Now I got to scroll back and find Jet Life. Okay, here we go. Who would Jets need to bring in free agency for you to be good going defense at 4 and 10? I could pay J.C. Jackson and then draft Sauce at. I could Johnson and 10 at a guy like Peppers at safety. They would have to. I would say they would have to overload on offense for me to want to go defense. They'd have to bring in a wide receiver. They'd have to bring in a starting guard, and they'd have to bring in a tight end. If they do that, then maybe 4 and 10 is your scenario where you would go defense. But I think you'd have to add significant pieces, like a Godwin per se on at wide receiver, and a starting tight end and a starting caliber guard. Then we could have a conversation. And then I'm probably going with edge at 4, whether it's Johnson or Karlaftis, whichever one that they decide is their edge 3 if KT's not there, let's say, and then Sauce at 10. Uh, I like Karlaftis and Ojabo more than Jermaine Johnson, but that's just me. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I would probably go Karlaftis, Johnson, Ojabo, but I think they're close. I think if someone's really giving you a hard time about your order with those 3, I think they're being a little nitpicky at that point. That's not egregious to say I like Karlaftis and Ojabo more than Johnson. I think they're relatively close. It's all about personal preference at that point. Matthew Smith, I need to answer ham or bologna. Bologna's gross. I would take ham over bologna. But I would say I'm not a huge ham guy. I would rather go like turkey or salami if we're going with cold cut meats. I'm intrigued by Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin. Me too, man. He just plays like a fire is lit under his butt. He's just wild, man. I think he's a really good tackler, and he plays with good speed. The Wisconsin linebackers, it just works. It just seems to work for whatever reason. This is blowing up now. Everyone's going in with their takes on ham or bologna. Mortadella, I see in there. That's a good one. Prosciutto. Prosciutto's good. Here we go. I would not mind getting Sauce Gardner or Traylon Burks with the 10th pick. Yeah. I again, it's really preference at that point. If the Jets trade, let's example here. If the Jets trade pick 35 for a wide receiver and they end up going Iquanu, Sauce Gardner at 10, you don't have pick 35, Jeremy Ruckert at 38, something like that. Yeah, I would not be complaining if Sauce Gardner is the pick at 10 if there's a scenario where they added to the wide receiver room before that. Who do you want to be our wide receiver one next year? Remember to like and sub. Yes, please give it a thumbs up and sub. That would help me out a lot. I don't like the labels of a wide receiver one. I would like the Jets to add Traylon Burks in the draft or Garrett Wilson. Those are my two favorite options. We are going to, let me pull this up. Or actually, no, first I have to hide this comment. We're going to take a quick break and I will be back with your questions after this. Online security is a must in today's world, and ExpressVPN is here to ensure that your devices are safe. ExpressVPN protects your computer, your phone, whatever device you want from hackers and ad agencies, so no more annoying targeted ads spamming your device. The best part, well, this actually works with Netflix and other streaming services too for your protection. Use the link in the description to get 3 months for free with your subscription. With my code, you can save 49%. And on top of that, get an additional 3 months for absolutely free. Protect yourself when you're surfing the web by using ExpressVPN. Details are down below in the description. Make sure you and your devices are safe. Good news, Jet fans. I have exclusive content for you at patreon.com/MattO'LearyNY. A $5 subscription gets you a ton of new content that's only available to subscribers. For instance, you have the player cards available from the 2021 season. They will update during the 2022 season to keep track of player progress. I will also do player write-ups on the NFL draft and on free agency, including those cards, and during the season as well. And with these cards, I could do so much more data visualization that will be exclusive only to you. Secondly, why should you subscribe? You're already getting the player cards, which is a bonus. You're also getting the write-ups, which is good. But the first 100 subscribers will be entered to win a jersey giveaway. Pick a Jets jersey of your choice, and I will ship it to you. No extra charge, nothing like that. So subscribe today, patreon.com/MattO'LearyNY, and get yourself some bonus New York Jets content. All right, we are back. Had to get that out of the way. By the way, James Bradbury write-up is on the Patreon. We also have a Dante Fowler write-up coming soon. So subscribe if you haven't already. A lot of awesome Jets content coming up over there. If you haven't got it out, we're doing articles, data visualizations, and we're going to eventually get some more stuff in there as well. Matt, where did his comment go? I think I hit it by accident. Anyway, okay. Derek, thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciate the love and support, my friend. I don't see a question in here, but I just wanted to shout you out. Thank you for the support. New York Jets superfan. Burks is the prosciutto of this class. If we go wide receiver, it's Burks 1, Wilson 2. I love it. I love it. I love that comparison. Prosciutto is a good deli meat too. Any of the Italian meats are good. Have you looked at Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver out of Kentucky? Think he's a stud. He's kind of giving me Elijah Moore vibes, and like someone's going to get him and be very happy on day 2. But I don't think it's going to be the Jets. I think they're going to go wide receiver earlier than that. Absolutely not. No, I'm not trading for Saquon Barkley. He is too injured. I would rather take somebody on day 3, a bigger body running back, and like, I don't know, sign Raheem Mostert or bring Tevin Coleman back. I would say no. I would not franchise tag Morgan Moses. He was pretty good for the Jets, but I think he's going to look for a starting role. And I think he did his job. He's going to get a starting role somewhere else, and that's yeah, that's pretty much it on it. I would say. I'd be surprised if he's back in any capacity. And then yeah, there's another good point from Robert. You can sign Moses cheaper than the tag. The tag is going to be pretty high. But I think he's going to want to go somewhere to where he can start. So I don't think it would make sense to do that. Nathan said, I just finished watching Green Bean's video, and now I am convinced that we should take Hamilton and 4, Dean at 10. LOL. I love Green Bean. And look, like, I don't agree with that take. I think he makes a compelling case. I watched, I watch his videos. He's phenomenal. If you're not subbed up to Green Bean, you should be. Our philosophies are just different on that. And that's okay. Not everyone's going to be in lockstep with their take. I think that would be a mistake if they did that. They very well could be good players, but it's also very much so dependent on what else they do. So it's hard to look at it in a vacuum and say, "Oh my god, I would hate Hamilton and Dean at 4 and 10." And like I know that's kind of ironic because I almost just did that, but um, there's not many scenarios where those two being the picks would make me happy. I think. Okay. If you had to pick a wide receiver at 10, who are your 1 and 2 guys? It would be Burks and Wilson in that order. Could you defend Sauce at 4 if we took an edge in the second round and day 3? No, I would probably say move back at that point. Move back if you pick. Uh, no, I don't think so. Why are we sleeping on buffalo chicken or honey roasted turkey? Phenomenal adds to the cold cut conversation. I love this. If Dalton Schultz isn't signed on day 1, we riot. Real take though. I love Dalton. I hope he's a free agent. I hope he gets the bag from the Jets. I really just don't want the first signing to be like a Jordan Davis 2.0. Is it Jordan Davis? No, yeah. No, Gerard Davis. See, I even got his name wrong. Bozo. Gerard Davis 2.0. I don't want it to be like a signing where you go, what? That's funny. Cordero Patterson. That's an interesting one. That's a little outside the box. I think he would be your Braxton Berrios replacement if you were doing that. I don't think you're re-signing Cordero Paris, or excuse me, re-signing Braxton Berrios and signing Cordero Patterson. I think it would be sign Cordero Patterson and then still add a receiver in the draft because Patterson's like that running back wide receiver hybrid. He'd almost play like a Debo role, a poor man's Debo role for the Jets. Yeah, there you go. Ooh, FMK, Godwin, Burks, Cooper. Wow. This is hard. Damn it. I hate that I have to answer like this. I'm marrying Burks because of the potential for long-term success. Godwin's the F and Cooper's the K, although I don't want to kill Amari Cooper, but with these 3 choices, I think that's your only option. Funky Chunks. That's a great YouTube name. Oh my God, I love it. Say the Jets have a great free agency and draft by surrounding Zach with great weapons and an O line, and he has a disappointing season. Do we look to get a new quarterback via the draft or trade in 2023? Well, there's so many factors into play. Where are the Jets picking? Like, is it a repeat of this year bad, or is it like a marginal step forward? I guess I would need a little bit more context. I don't know. I guess the draft, but I hope that's not the conversation. I really hope not. Will Zach Wilson's quarterback coach be back with us this season? I think I haven't heard otherwise, so I'm assuming that Beck would be back. Why is Stingley Jr. getting so much hate? Because he hasn't really looked the same since 2019, and injuries are the two biggest reasons. I think he's just a risky prospect. There's the potential is there. He's like the thing. He has everything you want, like in just looking at him and be like, oh yeah, that's the quarterback I want. The size, the speed, all that. But the injury concern and just he hasn't been as dominant as what he was in 2019. The love for him is really from that season 2 years ago. Yes, I did. And I don't look at that as a knock on Karlaftis. I look at that as more of an impressiveness on how good of a blocker Ruckert is, just because if you look at the amount of Karlaftis was one of the most in the backfield pass rushers in the entire country. I understand people who don't want to take him at 4 or in the top 10. Okay, that's a legitimate conversation, but we're talking about someone who is going to be a first round talent defensive lineman getting manhandled by Ruckert. I look at that as a Ruckert win more so than a Karlaftis loss, but yes, I did. It was impressive. Um, do the Jets have a realistic chance of signing Dalton Schultz? Wouldn't he rather go to a club closer to winning a Super Bowl? 2 words. Money. The Jets have a lot of it. They could spend. He is going to go where whoever takes the biggest contract or whoever offers him the biggest contract. Oh, here we go. Now we're talking. Isles game in less than an hour. Who do you think scores first? I'll say Brock. Brock Nelson's been hot scoring goals, so I'm going to say Brock Nelson gets the first goal. Let's get to the super chat. Thank you so much, Derek. Appreciate it. Got to give Wilson 3 years minimum. The NFL moves away from these kids way too fast if they aren't making deep runs. I really, there's not a scenario where I'd want to move on from Zach after next year. I don't think it would have to like something really, 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 really catastrophic would have to happen for me not to want to give Zach a 3rd year. And like honestly, what we saw in the second half of the year to me indicated signs of growth, and I think we're going to see more growth going into the 2022 season. 3 years is your answer though, because you have to decide on your 4th year or the 5th year option rather after year 3. So that's really decision time, which is why the Darnold conversation was so important last year and why you couldn't give him that extra year, because you had to make the decision on your 5th year option at that point. Nicholas says, what's your walkaway price for Schultz? I think 14 million is the highest I'd go. Would I go up to 14? I don't want to, but I guess, yeah. I think 12 is the number where he would sign for and I would do it, but I'd give him 14 million a year. I would be like, it would hurt my stomach a little bit, but yeah, I would give him 14. I know that's a little crazy, but Is it unfair to say the Jets should have at least 8 wins and potentially compete for a playoff spot, 7 seed? Not in the slightest. That's what I've been saying pretty much since the season's over. They need to be in that 8 or 9 win range and be competitive down the year. If they make the playoffs, great. I'm not saying like fire everyone if they don't make the playoffs. You fire, you clean your house, you burn it to the ground. That's not what I'm saying here. But I'm saying you can't be satisfied with these 4-win years every single season. You can't. With the amount of draft picks that you have, you just can't do it. I have a hard time predicting them to make the playoffs, but they have to take a significant step up. Jets gang, would you be mad if Falcons take Hamilton or Stingley? Absolutely not. I do not care about the Atlanta Falcons. Derek is back with another super chat. Thank you very much. How about giving Matthew the bag and draft Rucker and McBride? Interesting. I would still like to add a veteran tight end. So like if you want to pay up a big time safety, let's say, and then sign a Hayden Hurst tight end or a Zach Ertz tight end and draft a tight end, I think I would do that. But I don't. I don't know. I love both Ruckert and McBride, but I don't want to have to go into the draft and say I need two tight ends. I can't come out of this draft without two tight ends. I like the veterans. What's up, y'all? Tuning in from Germany. Glad to be distracted from the ongoing war in heart of Europe for a second by my good old Jets fam. Stay safe over there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate the support. And you're awesome, dude. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. What position do you want the Jets to go and get? Oh, what position most do you want the Jets to go get? In free agency, I guess tight end. Like if I had to pick one guy, Dalton Schultz. Guy number 2 is Marcus Williams, and I know there's a chance that neither of those two guys make the free agency window or the market, I guess. But I would say tight end, safety, edge, offensive line, another wide receiver are the positions that I really want. Whether you go in free agency or the draft is different. It's fine to me. Kev says, I'd offer 3 top safeties, William Bates, Reed a deal, and sign whoever takes deal first, then move to other needs. Honestly, yeah, like the Jets, if all 3 of those guys hits the market, it would be an absolute shame if they don't come away with one of those 3. Williams is my preference, but Bates or Reed would absolutely be a huge fit for this team. I love it. If Hamilton is there at 10, would you take him over Treylon Burks? I would not. I would rather take the wide receiver, improve the wide receiver room, and add a safety on day 2. I would take a safety like Daxton Hill, Brisker, Scene, oh my God, Petrie, one of those guys. This is a great point from Flash Aussie Gordon from Panama. Can we please, for the love of God, win a divisional game 2 years and beat the Patriots 6 years? That's how you earn respect. Yeah, no, it's legit. It's embarrassing just how bad the Jets have been in their own division. Their last divisional win comes against the Matt Barkley-led Buffalo Bills in the last week of the year in 2019 in a bullshit 7-9 season. You have to be more competitive against the division. You can't go 0-6. The Miami Dolphins are going through some major changes. Hell, I'll sign up for 2 wins in the division. Ideally, you get to 500. You go 3-3, but give me a split with the Pats and Miami. That's fine. Buffalo is head and shoulders above the Jets right now. If you lose both, fine. But at least give me a split with Miami and New England. I'm not asking for much. Jet fans are not asking for that much. Jared says, what do you think of KT character questions and more people coming out with concerns for his technique, boredom, or are more people watching full game film now? I think it's a little bit boredom. I think it comes a point in time where we try to analyze these prospects too much and you overanalyze. Like there were times last year when people were like trying to nitpick Trevor Lawrence. And it's like, what are we doing? Why? For what reason? I think people you're almost looking for reasons to dislike prospects at this point. Jack, I answered your question, man. No need to spam. Kev says, never wanted to draft a tight end, but this year begs to draft 2 tight ends. I'm still sticking with my 1-1, but yes, it's a great tight end class. Touched on this a little bit earlier, Cameron. What did you think of the story that came about other coaches slandering Bryce Hall? I think he's proven himself as a starter already in this league. If maybe some don't view him as a cornerback 1, they want to add in another starting outside corner, then I think that's reasonable. But to say that other teams were targeting him specifically, I have a hard time believing because he was solid for the Jets this year. Fair question, Steven. I think it's because there are a lot of quality tight ends in this class. I think that's why. It's again, that's another one that's preference. To me, again, my own personal belief, but I think it's 10 and 1 is McBride, 10 and 2 is Rucker, and then you can have the conversation after that. But Kolar's been really good. AM, phenomenal question again here. Why did the Jets always lead the league or damn close to leading the league in injuries? Do we need new training staff, better decision making with signings? All the above be the answer? I would very much so like some new training staff. It just it's insane. They had the most amount of cap space on IR by like $30 million this year. Just an insane amount. It was, I think, 71, and then Miami was at like 40 something. It was a crazy difference. It was at least a 20 million difference, if not 30 million difference. This is another great point. You don't get a home playoff game unless you win the division. You would need a wild scenario. You'd have to be the 5th or 6th seed, and then you would have to have the 7th seed go on a run. But yeah, the Jets haven't had a home playoff game since 2002, which is 20 years ago, man. That's unreal. Oh my God. Let's get to the super chat. Thank you so much, Tony Lee. Appreciate you. Burks at 10 or trade down to 20 with Pittsburgh if they offer you one next year plus a mid-round pick this year. Oh, is this an either or? Because I like both options, but if they're offering me a first next year, I would probably move back the 10 picks. I think I would do it because I'm not sold on them being. I think it would be similar to a Seahawks situation. Their quarterback scenario is very shaky, so there's a chance that could be a top 20 pick next year. So I'd move back and take my chances, I think. Do you think the Jets would trade back from the 4 spot? I would say if they are to move back, I think 10 would be the one that's more likely to move back. It's not impossible, but I think 4 is more than likely going to be either KT or Ike Ekwonu in my eyes. And if one of the two is there, I think you just grab them and don't think twice. I want to see the Jets beat the Patriots. It's been 7 years. Last time was 2015. Yes, I was at that game. That was by far the most fun Jets game I've ever been to in my entire life. I was convinced the Jets were winning on the road in Buffalo and going into the playoffs, which is just not what happened. Jared says McBride concerns me. 1K yards is great, but why only one touchdown with that kind of production? I wouldn't look too much into touchdown production. Don't look too much into stats when evaluating a prospect. Look at the traits and what they do. I wouldn't worry about the touchdowns. Dior Thompson, you agree with me? I'm pretty much right on with you, actually, is what I meant to say. Sign someone like Joe Hayden, go big money on Marcus Williams or Reed if we can't get Williams. Draft a cornerback and safety in rounds 2 and 3. Yeah, I agree a lot. That's a great point. We have time for a few more. I'm hopping out of here in a few minutes to record Just Jets. So get any final questions. Alex Baker says, trade Corey Davis for an asset? I would not. I want to keep Corey Davis. I know he had a rough year in 2021, but I think he is a high upside number 2 receiver, and I would not move on from him. I would add instead of subtract to the wide receiver room. Would you trade picks 4 and 10 for the Eagles' first 4 draft picks? We got to that. I don't want to do this math. I would lean towards probably no. I would want a higher end. I would at least want somebody in the top 10. So I'm going to say no. Why do you think people are so high on Hamilton? I get he's a great player, but this free agency and draft is stacked at safety, and this defense doesn't need elite safeties to be good. Um, because he's a really good player at a position of need, but I don't know. It's a lower value position to me. So I'm with you. I don't it's because of how good he is. Um, and it's a need. That's why. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out. Mims is a good blocker. So I'm just gonna go rapid fire on a couple here. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Make Mims a tight end. He is a good blocker. I don't know if he has this the size. By trading, I don't know who would be available via trade at the tight end position. I don't have any names jumping out. It's an interesting idea, but if you have somebody. Uh-oh, did I freeze? Okay, I'm back. Whew, I was nervous. Derek, oh my God, thank you. I appreciate it. Your content has been excellent. Keep up the great work. Later, bro. Derek, appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out. Any chance Brady lands in New York? That's one last thing he can prove. LOL. There is no shot at that happening. Sorry, my friend. I'll take one more, and then I'm gonna hop out of here. By the way, while I wait one more pick to come in, or one more question to come in, no stream next week because I have a good reason, guys. It's a girlfriend's birthday, so we are going out for her birthday. I'm taking the day off, a rare off day for Matthew, I know, but no stream. So just wanted to say happy birthday, Taylor. I love you and appreciate you. So thank you for that. Last one, we'll do this. Ideal situation at 4 and 10. My ideal situation at pick 4 and pick 10 would be Kayvon Thibodeau falls and you take him at 4 and you get your edge rusher. And then at pick 10, you take your wide receiver of the future and Traylon Burks, and you have loads and loads and loads of fun on offense. So that is going to do it for me tonight. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Tuesday, we are doing the Talking Jets panels coming back on Jets Talk 24/7. I'm amped up about that. More content throughout the week. I'm literally going to hang up or stop this stream and just get recording on Just Jets. A long night ahead for me. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.